We're out here today on the shores of Lake Pontchartrain. It's a little breezy out here today, but we're excited to be dedicating and starting construction on the Matherne Reef right here in St. John Parish, adjacent to Frenier Landing. A great project partnership between CCA Louisiana, Shell, the Building Conservation Trust, the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, Pontchartrain Materials, and our good friends at St. John Parish who've made it possible for us to all be out here today. We have 30 CCA chapters across the state of Louisiana, ranging from Shreveport and Monroe all the way to Lake Charles and Slidell and 26 other places in between. River Parishes is right here, partly based in St. John Parish. They came to our Habitat Committee 2 years ago with the idea to do this reef. Through the permitting process and through getting the blessing of St. John Parish and site selection, we find ourselves here today. And that's how it happens in every single reef we build. It's not something we just decide at the national office or at the state office. Our volunteers come to us with these ideas, and today is the evidence of that.
One of the things I love about CCA is that all of our projects come from our volunteers. This was a volunteer idea from the beginning. We run a local River Parishes chapter that gets together every now and then and says, what do we want to see in our community? Well, wouldn't it be great if we had a reef out here in West Lake Pontchartrain that we could get to from Frenier Landing? And this has been a 2-year project that the volunteers have been focusing on themselves, and we get to see it come to fruition now.
The CCA River Parish group decided to name it the Matherne Reef, which is named after my father. We were one of the founding members, or I think there's only 3 of us left, that started the River Parish back in the mid-90s. And it's grown to be one of the fastest growing chapters in the CCA group. And of course, Coastal Conservation Associations, the reason we have abundance in our redfish and speckled trout by making sure that we are the watchdog to conserve our resources, and it's a phenomenal blessing of resources that we have. We want everybody to enjoy it.
Shell's very happy to see CCA, Building Conservation Trust, and Pontchartrain Materials, as well as Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries on the Matherne Reef project. Another of many, many important conservation efforts through CCA in coastal Louisiana, and a happy time to see this coming to fruition. Well, Shell's been a part of this community for 100 years, and we'd like to see another 100 years. We'd sure like to see CCA doing well for another 100 years as well. There are so many reasons, but among them is that we live here. We've lived here for a long time. Our employees are members of CCA. They participate in their events, and they certainly participate in the great fruits that are born out of the conservation efforts, both fishing and enjoying the scenery with their families. We have partnered with them on so many other projects, and we're going to keep doing that because they deliver in a way that is trackable, it's verifiable, and it shows just as with today that the product of this great work is demonstrating something for the state of Louisiana, but also for the entire coastal Gulf region. And we couldn't be more happy about it. We're going to keep doing it. They are absolutely a great partner in conservation, and that's what we're trying to be too, a great partner in conservation for our people and for the environment.
This has been the culmination of a couple of years of effort by CCA and our River Parishes chapter to try to put another reef in the lake. We've had several of them over to the east and the north, but nothing to the west. So we approached Wildlife and Fisheries to see whether the site would be suitable for a reef, whether the depths were okay for the installation of a reef. And of all things, Wildlife and Fisheries said it's perfect. So we said, what about a site? And they said, we have an ideal site for it. We actually have an old shell pad out here that's been abandoned over the years. It'd be a great bottom substrate to support the reef material we're going to put on top of it. So after a couple of years of working with Wildlife and Fisheries and getting the permitting done, now we're ready to install the reef on that shell pad reef just about a mile away from here.
We have permitted a 10-acre reef site where we will be deploying approximately 4,000 tons of limestone. And we are planning to design the reef in a way that is in parallel rows, and that adds to the complexity of the reef and gives more hiding spots for small animals to get in there and to live, and increases the habitat of southern Louisiana. So as you guys probably know, southern Louisiana is made of predominantly soft mud habitat, so adding something that's hard substrate in this area is very important and can offer a completely different type of habitat than we already have here. So it's going to change things up a little bit and give some hard substrate for barnacles to attach to, and then things like sheep's head and speckled trout and redfish should be showing up sometime after those base critters start to establish themselves.
Good morning. My name is David Cresson. I am the Executive Director of the Coastal Conservation Association of Louisiana. In that role, I'm honored to represent more than 25,000 CCA members across Louisiana. We're excited to be out here today in beautiful St. John Parish on the shores of Lake Pontchartrain at Matherne Landing for the dedication of the brand new Matherne Reef that CCA, the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, Shell, Pontchartrain Materials, the Building Conservation Trust, and our friends from St. John Parish have partnered on to make a reality today. We're building a 10-acre reef right here off the shores of Lake Pontchartrain, just a very short boat ride from Matherne Landing. It's going to be made out of 4,000 tons of limestone that we've trucked in from all over the country to have here for this project. Our friends at Pontchartrain Materials are doing a great job, as they always do, of laying the material out in a way that will optimize the reef and make it to where it is a great fishing spot for years to come. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're excited and honored today to name this reef in memory of a great CCA member, a founding member of our River Parishes chapter, and a longtime conservationist, Mr. Vincent Matherne. We have several members of his family with us today, and to speak on behalf of the Matherne family is CCA board member and longtime conservationist himself, Mr. Craig Matherne. Craig.
How you doing? Thank you. My name's Craig Matherne. I've got my mom, Barbara, my sister Sue, and my wife Judy here. And we want to thank everybody involved in putting this reef together. From our family to our CCA family, a big thanks. My dad was a founding member of our river parish, but more than that, he was a good Cajun boy, actually born on a houseboat on a bayou. LSU grad, went through a stellar career in the petrochemical industry, but he never got far from his roots. He loved the water. He loved our camp at Grand Isle. And what he loved even more than that was taking people and having them enjoy these phenomenal resources that we're blessed with. And having someone catch their first trout or the first bag of shrimp coming in off the shrimp trawl, and then even more than that, going back to the camp or to the home and having a fresh seafood dinner that you just caught that morning. And it was always so special just to get in the boat and go on an excursion. A lot of my dad's actions and passions parallel to the same path navigated by CCA. So CCA was a very easy choice to endorse and to make sure that this phenomenal resource that he loves so well is protected. Everybody that's going to come fish on this reef, just let you know, when you set the hook on your first fish, you got somebody spiritually grabbing that net. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. As I mentioned earlier, this project was the birth child of our River Parishes chapter right here in the Luling, Laplace, St. John Parish area of the state right here, one of our longest standing and most active CCA chapters. I heard an amazing statistic earlier this weekend, or earlier this week, that marine reef habitat, and you've got to listen to this closely, marine reef habitat is more productive habitat than a rainforest. An acre of marine reef is a more productive habitat than an acre of rainforest. So by adding 10 new acres of reef to Lake Pontchartrain, imagine the impact that our River Parishes chapter is having today. Here to represent our River Parishes chapter is the Habitat Chairman for the chapter and our good friend, Mr. Alan DuPont. Alan.
Thank you, David. My name is Alan DuPont. I am with River Parishes chapter of CCA, and I'm the Habitat Chairman. And our role is to see what we can do to enhance all the resources around And in terms of things like the reef here, that's a natural one for us to gravitate towards. A couple of years ago, we decided to try to see what we could do in the western part of the lake here and approach Wildlife and Fisheries, who gave us a nod and said, yes, it would work in the area. Yes, the water depths are perfect for it. And so, as David said, we have a 10-acre site out there that the limestone will be placed on it, but it'll be placed to an elevation so we have at least 6 feet of water, so it's not a hazard to any navigation or what have you. So, with that type of spread and that elevation and the number of different holes for all the organisms to grow in, we think it should be very productive. So from the chapter perspective, I think we're extremely happy to see this kicking off today. So thank you.
Thank you, Alan. We've got a handful of folks that we still want to hear from today. These projects would not be possible. They would not happen without our partners in conservation, many times corporate partners who step up to the plate and work with us on habitat projects across the state. There is none more important to CCA or more of a partner to CCA than our good friends at Shell. Shell has made a long-term commitment to CCA over the last several years. We've built more than 15 of these artificial reefs across Louisiana's coast with Shell as a partner. Here representing our good friends from Shell is Mr. Kevin Simpson, who'd like to say a few words. Kevin.
Thank you very much, David. As David said, I'm Kevin Simpson from Shell. I work just down the road over here at Shell's operational headquarters in downtown New Orleans, but importantly, Shell's been in Louisiana for 100 years. And we want to continue a very long tradition of public-private partnerships and partnerships with conservation organizations and partnerships with our communities, because our thousands of employees here are fishermen, and they're people who like to be out on the water and like to see projects like this materialize. I want to thank Captain Matherne for being here and talking to us about this rich history that we've been a part of, because every part of Shell's business is present in Louisiana. Our deep water production, our downstream manufacturing, our pipelines, and it's everywhere in the state. And we want to show that everywhere we are, good things are going to keep happening, good things like this. Thanks again, David.
Just can't say enough good things about Shell. Shell was a founding member of our Building Conservation Trust, which is CCA's national habitat program. And an interesting thing about them, they come to us asking how they can help, which is a unique quality for a corporate partner. Shell comes to us saying, what can we do to make Louisiana a better place to support CCA's efforts? And we sure do appreciate Shell in that role. Also like to recognize our good friends from Pontchartrain Materials, another partner in all of CCA's projects over the last several years, and as I mentioned earlier, this is the 15th we've done with Shell, and the 23rd overall we've done here in Louisiana. Our friends from the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries have been there for every single one of them. They are great partners to work with. They help us with the permitting, with the technical side, with the site selection, and of course with the funding through the Artificial Reef Trust Fund. Here to talk to you a little bit about the structure of the reef and how it came about is our friend Miss Ashley Ferguson, a biologist with the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. Ashley?
This is a 10-acre reef site. We designed it with a pre-existing shell pad. There was still remnant shell there, and we are going to lay the shell in parallel rows, not coming greater than 2 feet off of the bottom. So the idea behind the design is to increase the complexity for more animals such as barnacles and things that attach to adhere to those rocks and to create the base of a food chain to really establish to enhance that fishing opportunity for anglers in the area. So we really appreciate our partnerships with, I think this reef is a great example of private, public, and governmental agencies working together to get something great done.
You know, we've been asked, this reef is pretty close to the Bonnie Carey spillway. How will that affect if the spillway's open and there's lots of fresh water running through? How will that affect the reef? And the way that the reef is being built in sort of a linear structure will allow that flow, if and when it comes through the spillway, to kind of pass through the reef without getting caught on the reef. So really smart the way that Wildlife and Fisheries and our engineers helped put this together. So what we found is that literally as soon as we finish construction, marine life starts to gravitate towards these reefs. And of course, when the smaller marine life shows up, it's not long after that the fish that we like to catch for recreation show up on those sites as well. As I mentioned, we've got many great partners. One of the first to get involved was our friends from St. John Parish. We are on the shores of St. John Parish, and I believe the reef site is actually inside the city limits, or the limits of St. John Parish. Here with us was one of the first gentlemen we met with when we dreamt up this project, our friend Mr. Michael Wright, along with several members of the St. John Parish government. Michael would like to say just a few words. Michael.
Thank you, David. Just on behalf of St. John Parish government, we want to thank, obviously, the CCA, Shell, the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries on partnering together to put this project, to bring it to St. John Parish. Any chance that we get to improve, obviously, the fisheries in the coastal parish of St. John, we're going to take it and we're going to jump on it. And so we appreciate the commitment you guys have made in St. John Parish, and certainly the recreational and commercial fishermen do as well.
Thank you, Michael. As Ashley said, this really is a great example of how city and parish and state government can get together with nonprofit organizations like CCA, corporate partners like Shell and Pontchartrain Materials, and national nonprofits like the Building Conservation Trust to really make a great project. This is an area of the parish that Michael told us a couple of years ago there's an effort to revitalize, to bring people back to Frenier Landing. And what better reason to come back to Frenier Landing than if the fish are biting just a half a mile away. So that is our hope. That is our expectation for this reef. I want to again say thank you to the Matherne family for allowing us to honor our good friend Mr. Vincent, may he rest in peace, in this way. There is no better way that CCA can come up with than to remember somebody through a great project like this. Again, thank you to our friends from Wildlife and Fisheries, Pontchartrain Materials. I forgot to mention the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries Foundation. Their incoming director, Mr. Sam Barbera, is here with us today. Of course, our River Parishes chapter, our friends from Shell, and our great friends from St. John Parish, who's made it possible for us to be out here today. Thank you. When we've done these projects around the state, and this is now our 22nd or 23rd project that we've done across Louisiana, the minute we finish construction, marine life starts to attract to these reefs. And of course, once the smaller marine life shows up at any site, the larger marine life is not far behind. So we expect that in the next few weeks and months, you'll start to see that life start to show up on the reef, and then hopefully by next spring we'll be catching some trout on this reef. This is in an interesting part of Lake Pontchartrain. This is a part that you don't often think about when you think about fishing in Lake Pontchartrain. We're on the extreme western side of the lake, and a lot of the fishing happens on the east side. But those who are in the know that when it's right on this side of the lake, it's really a great place to fish. But there's sort of a lack of structure over here. So creating this habitat, creating this structure in this part of Lake Pontchartrain should create some new opportunities that were a little hard to find in the past.
The whole project together, we really hope people are able to access this beautiful piece of water and body of water out here the way that they really should. So we really hope to see a much nicer looking Frenier Landing, get your boat out in West Lake Pontchartrain, and build up that fish habitat so you can really get on the water and access and get to enjoy the local Louisiana bounty right here in their backyard.
Today is the culmination of a lot of great partnership, a lot of great work of CCA, of course, but also our partners in conservation. The Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. I'd like to say a special thanks to the artificial reef staff at the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. In addition, Secretary Jack Monisset, Assistant Secretary Patrick Banks. They're all very important when it comes to making projects like this happen. Got to say a shout out to our friends at Shell. None of this would be possible without their incredible partnership with our Building Conservation Trust. That's CCA's National Habitat Initiative. Our friends at Pontchartrain Materials, who are out here giving of their time and materials to help us finish this project. And then of course our friends at St. John Parish, we're on their property today, so we couldn't do this without their blessing, without their support. So thank you to our friend Councilman Michael Wright, all of our friends at St. John Parish who've made it possible for us to be here today.
What we really focus on is conservation efforts, and that shows itself in a lot of different ways, from helping kids learn how to tie fishing knots to putting artificial reefs in water to help people have more access to fishing close to home. We have a lot of different projects all over the state, but we really focus on recreational fishermen being able to fish in Louisiana. We work a lot with the state, so Wildlife and Fisheries is always a great partner. Shell is a huge partner and asset to us in conservation efforts, and together we're all able to come out here with local officials and with volunteers, a very important part of that, to make sure these projects come together.
What types of projects does Shell partner with in Louisiana?
Yeah, so many, and so many for a long time. In addition to this one, the Floating Islands project, that's involving both Shell and Entergy, CCA, going down to different parts of the coast that really need it, with engineered material and planting mangroves and other things that help the coast restore itself and attract sediment and other issues that bring the coast an additional level of protection. Thousands of people participate in this and have for years. Shell also participates in the Louisiana legislators event that engages legislators who are not from the coastal parts of Louisiana to bring them down for a day of seeing the fisheries lab in Grand Isle, and also just to attract them down there in the first place to get them fishing. So it's educational and it's fun. Hopefully that brings political officials in the state of Louisiana to a greater degree of familiarity with the coast.
Then building a reef, we also tie in with our Ducks Unlimited groups, and we've done a Wetland Watchers youth group where we've had up to 800 kids out, and they were doing all the activities, outdoor activities from boating safety to archery to fishing, casting. Some of our charter captains would actually bring out fish in a little live box, some in the ice chest where you could actually identify different fish, and it just gives the youngsters a real broad knowledge of what the phenomenal resources are out here in South Louisiana.
The department really values our partnerships, especially, with CCA and the Artificial Reef Program. We have a long-standing relationship, and I think this reef is a good example of those partnerships coming together and working well together in order to accomplish something like this. All of the partnerships benefit the public in this instance because it's going to enhance our fishing opportunities in the western Lake Pontchartrain area, which we didn't have an artificial reef in this area yet. So because we were all able to work together and be at that meeting and all say, and piece part together our wants and our needs and our available resources, because we were all there and working together, this came about. So I think this is why this is such a good example of those relationships working well together.
If the conditions are right in this part of the lake, it is very reasonable to think that you might start to see some of the fish we like to catch this spring, maybe March, April, May. This is typically a fall spot for fishermen in Lake Pontchartrain. Usually it gets right in the fall if the conditions are right. So certainly by next September, October, November, we would expect to start hearing some good reports off of the Matherne Reef. Everybody can join CCA, whether you're a fisherman or not. If you care about the coast, you care about this part of Louisiana that's so important to so many people, recreational fishing. This is not just about putting a line in the water. This is about passing tradition on to your family. It's also an important economic driver here in Louisiana. More than $2 billion a year of economic impact just to Louisiana is what recreational fishing is. So when we create new habitat like this, we're providing more opportunities for people to go out and enjoy the water. So if you're a fisherman or woman, angler of any sort, or whether you just care about our coast, you should be involved with CCA. It's a $30 commitment once a year, gets you lots of great benefits, but most importantly, you're supporting good work across our coast. Everybody can join CCA, whether you're a fisherman or not. If you care about the coast, you care about this part of Louisiana that's so important to so many people, recreational fishing. This is not just about putting a line in the water. This is about passing tradition on to your family. It's also an important economic driver here in Louisiana. More than $2 billion a year of economic impact just to Louisiana is what recreational fishing is. So when we create new habitat like this, we're providing more opportunities for people to go out and enjoy the water. So if you're a fisherman or woman, angler of any sort, or whether you just care about our coast, you should be involved with CCA. It's a $30 commitment once a year, gets you lots of great benefits, but most importantly, you're supporting good work across our coast. For more information about this reef or any of the projects CCA participates in, you can go to ccalouisiana.com. There's a button right there on the left that shows you the location and the details on all of our reefs. To become a member of CCA, you go to exactly the same place, and remind everybody that when they support CCA, their dollars stay right here in Louisiana, supporting projects like this project we're here doing today.